Hey folks, welcome. Here we discuss real stories by real people. Today we have the story of a man whose wife left him for her childhood crush. Let's see how it goes. In January 2008, we married. We bought our first home about a year later. In 2010, she gave birth to my daughter. In 2013, she gave birth to our son. My wife and I have always struggled with communication. I had been cheated on before and she knew this. Although it was when I was 18 to 21, it was still painful. It was that paranoia that made me resent her for not communicating with me when she was upset. Or when I voiced my concerns. Not once did she open up to me, and that made me resentful and angry. On June 20, 2020, a day before Father's Day, and after 13 and a half years together, I had a blow up on my sister about not wanting to go to her place with my family for a party. I knew after my sister and I calmed down and made up, I needed to finally confront my wife. She was about to take the kids to her mom's because my daughter was scared. It broke my heart, and I asked the kids to go play while we talked. I told her all of my frustrations. I told her I felt like her love for me has dwindled among many other things. I asked if any of what I was saying was true, and she told me after some silence, she wasn't in love with me anymore. Couldn't believe it. I knew our marriage was in trouble, but there's no going back from those words. In the end, I apologized, and she grabbed my face with her hands, just as she had done every time we worked things out, and said, "We'll get through this." Then she told me we would have a new normal, and that she wouldn't want to go through this with anyone else. She said, "I appreciate you." I realized this was her new "I love you." So now, her and I are separating and have been communicating more than in our whole 13 and a half year relationship. She let me apologize for my wrongdoing and causing our marriage to end. She apologized for not being able to communicate well and not telling me sooner she didn't love me. After the first couple of days though, it wore and wore on me that there had to be more. Everything I read and everyone I talked to told me it's weird for that to be the reason she doesn't love me. I've asked her several times the last year and a half alone if she was seeing anyone, and maybe twice before in our marriage. The first one when she was pregnant with my son, when I had similar suspicions. The day she told me she didn't love me, I asked if she was with or had been with anyone, or if she was emotionally attached to anyone. She said no immediately. She told me the first time I asked that question years ago, she would never do that to me. I asked her to do counseling and she refused. I made her tell me to my face she didn't love me anymore and did not want to work it out. She took some time and told me. When asked why she had to wait to tell me, she said she didn't want to say it immediately and hurt me or something like that. At one point in those first 3 weeks, I was confused and convinced I was the reason for everything. Well, almost 3 weeks to the day I found out I ruined my marriage, I decided I was going to draw my family that I lost. I had read that picking up an old hobby while going through a grieving process is a good way to cope. I used to draw when I was younger, so I figured I'd pick it back up. I couldn't find a picture I wanted on my phone or PC, so I grabbed her iPad my son uses to watch YouTube on. I started flipping through the pictures and saw pictures of her in lingerie I never saw. Screenshots of current pricing for one-way tickets to BWI, like one a month. Screenshots of a conversation from a guy who was having a repo car problem or something, and she said her best friend's husband would look at it. He's a lawyer. On the message was a heart. I looked at the name, and it hit me. It was a friend from when she was a teenager. Their families went to church together. She has always flown to DCA or Dulles to go see her friends. A year and a half ago, she was going to DC again, but this time, she was flying to BWI because she was going to meet a female friend and sleep at her male friend's place, and that he would drive her to DC in the morning. I immediately told her that was weird and uncomfortable because I don't know the guy. This was the first time I had ever heard of him and learned of her connection to him. We had just celebrated, or about to celebrate, our 11th wedding anniversary at this time. The timing was confusing because I didn't know all the information. She went at the beginning of this year too, so that may be when everything went down. The half-truth she had was DC and Dulles are busier, so it's easier to get in and out of, and she was flying standby, so the flights looked better to BWI, and she wanted to reconnect with her friends from her childhood. Oh, she reconnected alright. I found no messages from him in the iPad, but she wasn't talking to anyone about our stuff, except for the gist of it. Like, she was unhappy and we were separating. No real details. I went into our bedroom and pulled up Instagram on there, and it was logged in. Thousands of messages between the two of them. I saw jokes about if he got cum in her eye with an emoji, saying that was what the emoji meant. Her response wasn't sexual at all, but I don't think she'd like me saying those things to someone. Pictures of rings she'd send him saying she liked looking at shiny things. Him talking about how his best friend, a female cop, always tries to interview girls he tries to date. Her asking if she knows about her. He asked her jokingly for boxers. Then there were messages about his size, and she said maybe when she gets a job. There was so much more. I found out that she had been secretly recording several of our conversations too over those 3 weeks, without my knowledge. Perfectly legal in our state. When I found out she had bold-faced lied to me for so long, I was done. I waited for her to get home after texting her, I knew. I had all day to write my screw you letter. I realized this woman had been using me our entire marriage. She had been gaslighting me the whole time. She's been gaslighting me even after she accused me of being the reason and recording my conversations. I can only assume trying to get that guy to come out again to have something to prove to her friends that she is the victim in this marriage. I recorded most of my conversations with her after that to prove I wasn't angry like that anymore. I felt guilt saying this, but I was relieved. I wasn't in love with her anymore because of the betrayal. She's been trying to keep this secret because once it was out, her reputation would be ruined. She has since moved to her mother's. I told her we would not be cohabitating anything, and I retained a lawyer the day I found out she cheated. It hasn't been long, but we are actually still communicating, of course, for the sake of the kids. We're friendly as of now. I was told she's in love with him. He has also since told me she had feelings with this guy since she was 14. Their families were close, and she reconnected with them 10 years ago on Facebook. Yeah, but she claims they haven't been intimate until recently. I didn't ask for a timeline. I asked how many times she screwed, nicer word than what I used, him, and she was crying and said, I don't know, like twice, then looked at me like it was a ridiculous question. She tried to tell me that the cum comment was a joke and wasn't referring to any activity they did. I had to remind my wife you don't make those kinds of jokes with married women, and for her to entertain the joke afterward isn't something married women should be doing either. Half-truth. Even caught screwing another dude and still tries to make it look like it's not a big deal. She hasn't worn her wedding bands for a while, and when asked, she says she doesn't like jewelry on her fingers. You know that, she said, but I didn't know that. She always has her 3-stone ring in her middle finger, and I saw the messages of her trying to get her boy to buy her jewelry. She's been getting worse and worse mentally over the years, and it's caused neglect in her being a wife and parent. Every day I put something new together, which confirms more lies. She's struggling because she knows what she did. I made her tell her mother because I'm very fond of her and didn't want to ruin my reputation any further. I also sent her mom a long, non-vulgar message explaining the real reason as well. Maybe a little vulgar, because I used the term bodily fluids. I gave her a waiver of divorce, and she struggled to understand I didn't choose the wording. She's failing to realize that the courts don't care about our feelings. They care about what happens to those kids. Well, I'm the only parent with a job, and now she has to figure out how to pay child support. I've been very honest in that I just want a divorce. We are in agreement on who gets what. We have plans in place for equal access to the kids. I have made this so easy, divorce-wise too. I get the house, but she keeps all of her retirement and no child support as long as she pays her monthly portion of our shared bills. She tried asking me how long she would have to get a job, and I cut her off. I told her I would not be waiting for her to get a job. Once we're divorced, it's her responsibility. She clammed up, as she always does. She comes over to get a desk one night after having the kids at her mom's and starts crying. Tells me it's so hard. It took all I had not to laugh in her face and asked her how we could have avoided this situation. It hit me. She's sad because now she has no leg to stand on because of her infidelity. She didn't want to tell the truth that day because she wouldn't get a free place to live. She'd have to live at her mom's and tell her why our cohabitating plans changed. I told my wife too that she's supposed to marry someone better than me, that this guy is not a stand-up guy. Good guys don't do what he did. I told her she needs to get healthy and then date because this dude has been getting all the goods and sending her back home, not having to worry about anything bad because that was my job. She told me she didn't plan on going there and he has no way to get here. I asked her how that was supposed to work, because you can't have a real relationship with someone until you are with each other every day, in and out. And usually, long-distance relationships that do work are because those two people were already in a committed relationship to begin with. I told her to wait until they had to actually work on a relationship with together. Last night I started thinking about them again because I knew where she was going and all those feelings came rushing back. I'm thinking about them together. Possible trash talk and whatnot. I have no clue if she plans on continuing her thing, but I'm done. I was convinced at the beginning of my relationship everything happens for a reason. Then I was convinced that isn't true. Today I thought again of my kids and realized they were the reason we got together, to have them. Even though I have support somehow, seeing the encouragement and support from complete strangers to other strangers from a site I frequent but never post is uplifting to say the least. You've helped me see that I am important. I know there's more I could put in here, but I believe this will suffice. Thank you for your time, and I know it was long-winded. Oh man, sorry you're going through this. Don't blame yourself for any of this. This is not your fault. Of course, her friends and family will find a way to blame this on you, but hold your fort strong. If she were that unhappy, she had several options besides cheating and ruining her family like this. She's still in affair fog. This dude only wanted her as a side piece, not to wife her up. He's going to realize this sooner or later, and that she blew up her loving, stable family for a few butterflies in the tummy. Show no mercy in the divorce, OP. Don't give up anything without a fight. Good luck.